one of the most crowded panel here, and rightly so. We have too many of us to accommodate in this one room. So coming back to the pandemic stories and the stories of resurgence, I think 2020 was a time, as far as my personal journey goes, I started way before that, but 2020 was a time that truly nudged us all to think and sort of reinvent and rebrand ourselves. And I took this as an opportunity, of course, and a lot of us did, you know. For how long can you really fret about it and just call it and not see it as it is, right? So it came as an opportunity. Of course, there were challenges, but then to reinvent yourself, rebrand yourself, venture out into the spaces, those were sort of in the gray area of my mind. I did that. And one very important lesson that I learned during this pandemic and otherwise also in life is that one should always have the courage to fail. You know, as artists, as MCs, as people who are put on stage, one of the biggest factors that stops us from reinventing ourselves or, you know, rethinking of something beyond what we already know and do, I think that is the capacity and the ability to fail. Because failure is something that we are all scared of. And in a market as fragile as it is for MCs, you're very quickly labeled, you're very quickly judged. Everything that you do matters, and it has to be of certain quality and certain standard. So I started with my living in my mom's attic and started from there and doing my simple whatever yoga thing. I used to put it on live every day. I started reading out a lot. I anyway used to do, but this time I used to take that career break that we all were sort of trying to take. And I tried to sink into more of a learning mode. I tried enrolling into a lot of courses and did that to sort of not let that depression and that feeling of not being able to make my money. I was going through a personal challenge as well. All of that. So I was just trying to, you know, stay afloat during this whole pandemic. So I think that's my small story.
Great. We're going to keep it as short as Shobha just did, because we have a lot of people on the panel. So I would like to ask somebody else to talk about their pandemic pivot and try and keep it crisp a little bit.
Give it out for our MC as well, Rajiv. You're doing a damn good job. Well done, brother. So, well, I'd like to tell you very honestly, I remember it was March 19th and I finished shooting for my ZTV show. And I was like, wow, 15 din ki chutti hai, you know, and I was like, I'm going to sleep because I felt I was overworked. I reached home and that whole thing became 15, 20 days, 30 days. And then I got a news that, listen, your primetime ZTV show is shutting because we don't know how long this is going to go on. And then I sat, April 2nd, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I said, God damn it, my show is shutting, and I was probably thinking of buying another house through that show, and ye band ho gaya, to main kya karoon? Then I told myself, I need to create content that I own, so that for the rest of my life, I'm not dependent on anyone saying, mujhe per day ye chahiye, 4 show ka ye deal hoga, nothing. I called up my radio station, and I said, I want May 1st to be my last date. And my radio station was like, are you mad? There's a pandemic. We're giving you a show. You're getting a monthly retainer. You want to quit the radio station? I said, yes. And he was one of the biggest entertainment people ever. And I told him, sir, honestly, I want to quit because every interview I do, I want to own it. And he said, are you sure? And I went back to the drawing board. I quit everything. I kept my voiceovers going, and obviously digital events started, and I started doing interviews for my YouTube channel. And everyone in the meanwhile, suddenly people started getting merely online, karo merely, and I started refusing everyone online. I said, I don't care. Ye content main own karunga. And in those 2 years, from being probably a 200 subscriber-based channel in April 2020, I became a 1.3 million YouTube channel, 330 million views, sold my content to Spotify, Chingari app, Voot, and coming on 9 other platforms, all sold for. Because I realized when doors started shutting, I didn't want to go to people because people didn't know where to go. And the only person I could go to was myself. And that was empowering. At the same time, I love digital. So I hired 3 college kids who passed out of college and were looking for a job somewhere. And I told them, you know what? Digital events may start. Mere ghar aa jao, tum log baitho. So one of the boys was from Lucknow. And he said, sir, I can't travel because everything is shut. I said, doesn't matter. I have a small apartment in my same building, which I've taken for rent. Tu aake mere saath reh. And he said, mere do dost hai, Lucknow se sir, wo bhi aake reh. And they started staying. And they started creating digital content with me for live events. And then I started calling event agencies. I called friends and said, bhai, mere paas idea hai, 10 minute aoge. And I kept going on Zoom calls and presenting all my digital ideas for virtual events. And then they started calling me for virtual events. So I created a team of people along with myself to challenge these times. And then virtual events happened, syndication of content happened, YouTube happened, and like they say, but most importantly, can I tell you, forget me, forget MCs, look at the people in this room, mere bhai. Look at everyone. When things were shut, look at all of them, they are flourishing right now. So it was because of them and us holding hands together that we made it happen. So thank you so much. Talia sabko is room mein, please.
So I definitely wish to add on Sid. So I believe that whenever there's a deadlock, there's always a way opening from there. So when it came to me, of course, we were so dependent upon live events, be it hosting, be it live performance, or be it curating the entertainment for shows. But then, of course, the COVID happened, and the turnaround, was there. So then I started creating content, which always my passion was, to direct, to produce, to do something which is creative, which is beyond live. Although we all are very passionate about live. So I started creating content like original songs, which I started streaming on Spotify and Hangama and all these 350 plus digital platforms. Then I had a deep desire to endorse Indian cultural heritage. I somewhere felt that digital audience is a lot of youth which somewhere are deprived of how glorious our country is, how rich the Indian culture and tradition is. So I curated this song called Ghumar, a Royal Folk, which I shot at Chomu Palace, Rajasthan. And my deep intent was only to bring out how rich our country is. So that music, that video, of course, I directed also, I produced. And the complete, it's 40 dancers and, complete that palacious kind of a look with me wearing 8 kgs of lehenga and fire in the hands and all that. And that video got 100,000 views just in 3 days. And Times of India made me the headliner, apart from Red FM, the Artist of the Week. And more than that, Javed Akhtar Sahab recognized. And he sent me an award, a recognition, for being an artist and a filmmaker. So I never ever thought like from a singer or a host or a show curator, I'll be a director, producer, independent artist. So that's what COVID has done for all of us. I'm sure each one of us has some stories to share. So looking forward to, see it heard.
Now, going by the number of the people, I think we should revolve the mic all over the room once and kind of get this down. No, I'm kidding. Frisha, B, the busy bee?
The busy bee. The thing is, a lot of us over here, we are content creators. And I actually had my YouTube channel before the pandemic hit. And then events took over. And I completely put the channel on the side because all that I was doing was living out of a suitcase and going from one city to the other, and I couldn't create content anymore. And, like Sid said, as soon as the pandemic hit, the one thing that came to my mind was, oh my God, wait, I can actually go back to that one thing that really, really fills up my soul. But the biggest problem that I had is that there was a pandemic and nobody could travel. You couldn't do anything. It was communicating with people I was finding very difficult creatively, like you were able to at least bring these people down and live with them. So not only did I land up creating a lot of content, getting more than 200,000 subscribers during that time period, but I also became an editor and I learned a new skill. And that actually now has led me to understanding how content gets created to such an extent that I also have a content creation company of mine now. And we now create content for other companies, for other YouTube channels, for other Instagram pages. So for me, the biggest pivot was not just, the subscribers and the views and all of that happened, But I also think that I ultimately moved on to a business side. So other than hosting my events now, I also run my own content creation company. And that for me was a big resurgence. And that for me was a huge transformation that took place in my life. So yeah.
So for me personally, COVID was both in terms of professionally as well as personally. I think all of us being, I wouldn't say locked in, but confined to one space, you get to think a lot. So, I'm from a highly scholastic background. I was actually placed at certain really big MNCs when I started my career. And I chose communication for one reason, that I wanted to create an impact. And I wanted to bring the right content in terms of business curation on the stage. So I think COVID, Ravin, for me personally was fantastic because I could create my own series, which had the top minds. You know, I could get the CEO and the founder of ThyroCare. I could get Mr. Basin. He's an ex-Xavierite. I could, get Kunal Jeswani, who's the CEO for Ogilvy. What I realized was that when I was talking to them as friends, initially, it was always, we would catch up, meet, but I realized the humanity level, the fourthness with what they came to me, because they would go for interviews in a lot of other platforms. But for me, it was just a call away. So I realized the power a person has within, which I personally thought was one of my biggest learning, that if you kind of believe in yourself, your content, there's something special about you. There's something unique which possibly attracts that person. So, for me, honestly, it was about content curation and, of course, personally getting more and more with that aspect of getting the right minds on one stage. So that really worked wonders for me.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so now moving from the artist to the people behind the stage who make events like this happen and, of course, give us memories to take back home. Chirag, how was your transition? Parag, Chirag, अच्छा, nice, thank you. हाँ, नहीं, मैं ये जो लिख के भेज रहे हैं भाई साहब मेरे को, इन्होंने MBBS कल ही करा है. इनकी हैंड राइटिंग इज एब्सोल्यूट किलर. सो सर प्लीज.
वैसे पान पराग को भूलना नहीं चाहिए आपको. बारातियों का स्वागत उसी से ही होता है, शादी वेडिंग इंडस्ट्री वालों से.
There we go. Parag, tell us a little bit about pandemic के टाइम पे आपका बिजनेस का ट्रांजिशन कैसा रहा, क्या चेंजेस आए, if you can talk a little bit about that.
To be very honest, हालत खराब हो गई थी स्टार्टिंग में. I'll be very honest. It was like कि what to do, because trophies is all about celebration, get-togethers. एक बारी एक फीलिंग आई कि क्या should I change the business? एक रात ये सोचा. So next morning I woke up and just thought, सचिन क्रिकेट खेलते ही अच्छा लगता है. अगर वो सोचे क्रिकेट बंद हो गया मैं फुटबॉल खेल लूँ तो चलेगा नहीं. So I had an option of doing corporate gifting. But what had happened, fortunately all the events budget had shifted to corporate gifting. And people were delivering gifts to all the winners. होटल से खाने आ रहे थे, बहुत कुछ हो रहा था. One day I realized one thing, मैं ट्रॉफी उठा के अपने बच्चे के पास गया. Then he told me, पापा ये आपको मिली है. उस दिन मुझे समझ आया कि स्टेज पे जो हम ट्रॉफी मिलती है, अगर वो आपके घर में डिलीवर हो और आपका बच्चा उसको देख के आप प्राउड फील करोगे और वो भी खुश होगा. आई गॉट अ AV मेड ऑन दैट एंड लोग पागल भी बोल रहे थे मुझे कि ये कैसे होगा. मैं कहा जोमेटो डिलीवर हो सकता है, स्विगी डिलीवर हो सकता है, ट्रॉफी क्यों नहीं डिलीवर हो सकती भाई. सो देन आई मेड अ लॉट ऑफ AVs spread across all across industry. My own industry guys were saying यार ये क्या बेवकूफ़ी है, घर पे कौन देगा है. And finally we did it. By God's grace हमने इंडिया नहीं, आज हमने कनाडा भी ओपन कर लिया है. और चाइना है, मैं वेरी हार्ड कोर एंटी चाइना का है और अंदर जिद आ गई थी. मेरे पास UK से ऑर्डर आने लग गए, यूरोप से. उस टाइम मुझे रियलाइज़ हुआ कि ट्रॉफी इंडस्ट्री इंडिया में ही सोच के, और तो उससे हमें काफ़ी ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर मिला. एंड वर्चुअल इवेंट्स काफ़ी स्टार्ट हो गए. लकीली हमारे पास टीम्स काफ़ी बड़ी थी कि कोरियर आपको एक एक के घर पे ट्रॉफी करना. यू नीड अ एजुकेटेड टीम, यू नीड टू अ सिस्टम एंड प्रोसेसेस इन प्लेस. एंड ट्रॉफी इंडस्ट्री में आज भी दुकान वाला सिस्टम है. एक आदमी है, दो आदमी हैं. सो जब मैंने अपने MBA किया बिमटेक से 13 साल जॉब की, तो मेरे दिमाग में यही था कि काम कोई छोटा बड़ा नहीं होता. यू नीड टू मेक अ ब्रांड इन इट. सो आई एम वेरी फॉन्ड एडमायरर. आई एम अ पंजाबी, सो आई लाइक छोले भटूरे अ लॉट. सो आई मैं क्वाइट सीताराम के छोले भटूरे का बहुत बड़ा फैन हूँ. तो मैं ये सोचा कि यार एक आदमी छोले भटूरे से ब्रांड बना सकता है तो ट्रॉफी से क्यों नहीं. सो दैट्स द रीजन, इट वाज ऑल माय पैशन. और आज बाय गॉड्स ग्रेस वी आर वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट. और सिद्धार्थ जैसे लोग भी खुश होते हैं हमारी ट्रॉफी लेके.
The award which I was talking about, which I received from Javed Akhtar Saab on my song Ghumar, a Royal Folk. So that was delivered by courier only. So I was like so surprised. When I opened, it was so beautiful, like in his own handwriting, the beautiful lines which he has written, you know, on Women's Day for, you know, adding that value to the Indian cultural heritage was so, you know, it was just a feeling which I cannot even describe. And of course, last week we received another trophy from him where our picture was also there. I guess a lot of us has received that Power Women Award. So thank you.
No, of course.
इन शॉर्ट शेफाली ने बोल दिया कि उन्होंने क्या क्या अवार्ड जीता है पिछले एक हफ्ते. ये बेस्ट वे होता है बताने के लिए कि मैंने ये अवार्ड जीता है वो जीता.
So we all have learned this marketing skills from you only. So he is my gym mate and I see him, you know, even when he's lifting the weights, his trainer is there, you know, in front of him with the mobile phone and he's like very, very good in selling skills. So anyway, congratulations and keep it up. Thank you.
Over to you, Robin.
मैं कह रहा हूँ सारी बातें एक तरफ हैं,
सही है.
सारी बातें एक तरफ
You're
हैं,
on the job, Bhavna.
सारी बातें एक तरफ है. पराग अपने साथ में 2 टेस्टिमोनियल लाइव लेके घूम रहा है इंसानों के रूप में. Look at that for a brilliance of your brand value. That's amazing. That's amazing. Coming to talking about the business, Siddharth sir, I would like to ask you to chime in now in the conversation and tell us about your pandemic pivot.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank Anurag sir and Ruhail for this opportunity to begin with. So we as a business are into experiential marketing, digital publishing, branded content, influencer marketing. So when COVID absolutely when happened, first 15 days we did not realize what hit us. Parag ji ne jaise bola, we also started self-doubting what other businesses can we do. Of course, digital business grew, revenue grew, but experiential marketing still formed a very strong part of our P&L. The challenge was that when the world shifted to Zoom events, virtual events, when we went for sponsorship, which forms a very large part of the revenue of experiential business, वो बोलते थे यार पैसे क्यों मांग रहे हो, Zoom link बनाना है, आप free में कर लो सब. So this was the challenge to tell them that no, calling people in a Zoom window or in the room requires equal amount of effort. So what we essentially did is we kept the field similar, but we looked at opportunities which our competitors were not tapping in, be it OTT, be it short form, be it influencer marketing, be it gaming. So we created opportunities, IPs, which were pretty new age, which led to sponsorship, a lot of subscription, and also people paid to listen from creators who are new age and future. So for us, personally, as a self-funded startup, when COVID hit, the challenge for us majorly was to keep the cash flow churning because we had to keep all the 70 people in the organization, ensure that they don't lose their jobs. So instead of experimenting too much and keeping all the insecurities aside, trying not to do what others are doing, we stuck to the basics, created some opportunities around the core business model, and we survived the COVID, and today we are speaking here. So thank God, thank you, the universe. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. मैम आप भी बता दीजिए आपकी कहानी कैसी रही, क्या परेशानियां थी, कैसा अपने ट्रांजिशंस किए, what really happened in your pandemic story?
So the pandemic time did really show me a different colors. One, because as I've been introduced, I'm from the Delhi Gharana of music, and I was with my father and my family in our ancestral home in Old Delhi, wherein almost all of us are artists and musicians, and also the surrounding area as well. It's a kind of a small community where all artists were there. So I have seen the really, really bad plight of the artists, especially the accompanying artists and the smaller musicians, the kind of financial trouble that they've all gone through. And I have seen it as a first-hand experience. I was there and I could see them doing what not, so the artists who were kind of established in their own this thing, because they were all like daily wage earners. They would roz kuwa khod ke roz pani peene wale log the, and I could see them, वो fruits के ठेले लगा रहे हैं, fruits के टोकरी में fruits बेच रहे हैं, and people are coming to us and asking for help. And I've seen the worst phase, I think, for artists. I think they are one of the most affected fraternities in this pandemic. As an artist, for me, I found my calling because of the me time that I got. So, yes, I went through a lot in the past 2 years. I lost my father. And so, because I was very close to my father, my whole life revolved around him. And the tradition and the legacy that I'm going to be carrying forward along with him. So I was not a singer back then. I used to help him organize events, and as it's been announced, I was a co-founder of Dilli Darbar, the festival that we did for classical music, and it was one of the best IPs, and we got IMA's Best Festival Music Award. Now that everybody is mentioning about their achievements, I should also take this up.
You must.
Thank you. Well, yeah, so we got the Best Music Award and the Best Arts Festival, gold and bronze both.
And Mr. Parag
So,
said what?
in the first year itself. Coming back to what happened. So I found my spiritual calling, and the existential crisis made me realize why we are all here for. I don't know how many of you were there in the first session where I performed in the morning, but the song, my debut song, was a product of that time. Because I lost my father and the emotional void that I was going through, I channelized that into something creative. And the song, in the first 2 days, got 1 million plus views on YouTube. And yes, I also announced in the morning it is going to be in Nasiruddin Shah's movie very soon. So this is the kind of, something that I never expected. It sort of fell into my laps, but yes, I found my calling in that time. And I have seen the most difficult phase as well, as I have mentioned. I have seen my people struggling, and then we started a campaign called Save Our Artist Campaigns, and unfortunately, not a lot of help artists received in that time. We'd gone and approached the ministries, the departments, the state governments, all in vain. And so we all came together, helped each other, but yes, that was the most difficult time, but I think there was a silver lining for me. I found my calling, and whatever I am is because of that time. So thank you so much.
What an incredible story, actually. And this time also, like you mentioned, it also pushed us to think of ideas, think of impact that we can create. Because before that, I think for all of us, it was more like you're doing your job, you're living in and out of a suitcase, not thinking about purpose, larger impact, and bigger things and stuff like that, right? But this time really did put you in a spot where you could see very tangible impact, that you're creating. You're getting views, you're getting feedback. I'm sure, Frisha, that has happened with you, that has happened with all of us who have tried to create some sort of a content and get people really inspired along the way. So I think that is one big learning that has come out of this pandemic for all of us, because when you see somebody else up there creating an impact and the message resonating with everyone around, you realize your individual power and potential to take some really big leaps. Like Siddharth said, he quit his job, not the job, but whatever radio thing you were doing. And a lot of us made the leaps. Those were probably in the head, but would never come to fruition if we would continue doing, and if this time wouldn't have hit us. So I think...
In fact, there is another monetary aspect which has come into play for performers, anchors, you name it. I'll tell you what has happened is, now when I get called for events, a lot of brands, a lot of agencies start telling me, Siddharth, because your digital numbers are high, we want you to host it. But can you please do stories for us? Can you do a video for YouTube with us? Can you do a whole package of Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, everything? So the monetary aspects have gone 60 to 70% by God's grace higher for me, because that has come into vogue. Because in those 2 days, we all had a digital upswing. So that is something performers, artists can look into as well. You can suggest this. But my humble request is that you have to work hard on your digital. I see a lot of artists, because I would like to believe that I'm a student of digital. I love digital. I don't think you should get into Russian followers, Chinese followers. Don't get into all that. You know, there is a whole market there.
He's basically saying don't buy followers.
Don't do
That's
buy
what he's
followers.
saying.
तो क्या होगा?
Don't get bots.
Yeah, don't do that. Because then what will
Yeah.
happen is you'll enter a room and 4 of your friends will say, kya followers hai? But if a Hindustan Unilever has to give you a big package for your following, they won't give it to you. Your 4 friends will do tarif and you'll also get a bouquet, you'll get a barter deal of nice shoes, you'll wear it, you'll flaunt it. But if you've got to make money, you've got to keep it organic. Only then, it doesn't matter if you have 3 million followers or 100K followers. What is important is that 100K are hardcore, they engage with you, they talk to you and do that. So sometimes I've seen a lot of people under pressure doing all that. I mean, I was just sitting in the room before this, and I suddenly saw another host who's a very dear friend of mine, and I love him to death. Suddenly was at 25K, and today he's become 700K. But that will happen is 3 of you will pat him on the back. But what is important is he's not going to make money out of it. So if you want to keep that monetary thing going, work organically, work the right way, and it will happen. It's not numbers that count. It's the right numbers and engagement that counts. And if you have a following in Russia and China, congratulations.
So with this, over to you, Ravin.
No, this will happen throughout the day because you know there are so many MCs on the stage. मुश्किल
I
आएगा
think
बोलने का
I'm
number.
the only one who's going to be like, time is of value. Time is the biggest asset, guys. Let's maintain time. But guys, let's give it up for all the content being shared today on stage. Over to you, Ravin.
Perks of being the MC of the show, no, you have to remember that the whole show is yours. From the bots to the hots on the stage, Sanchali ji, your pandemic pivot, can we get a bit of sneak peek on that?
Thank you very much. Okay, finally, yes. So another MC who's sitting right there at the back, was a self-proclaimed MC, Janardhan. Thank you very much.
जिन्होंने finally बोला वही थे ना?
He did a fireside something on stage. It was quite
I think he does a lot of
spicy
things.
session.
I'm glad he's not on the stage, otherwise none of us will be speaking. And he's soon going to take everyone's job. Having said that, so the pandemic was very tough for me, like for everyone else. I think more it was an emotional roller coaster. One day we knew something is happening, we saw a ray of hope, and then everything went down. Only thing is, it hit me a little later. Yes, in terms of the money crunch, I felt it immediately. I traveled and spent all my money, and I'm like, okay, I have 5 events lined up, I'll make for it. And I'm like, oops, it's all gone. So yes, it did hit me hard, but then I thought it's gonna come, like for everyone else. Thanks to Ima, I will really thank Ima for this because I was involved in their sessions. And not only did they prove very fruitful for everyone who I think actually, and many of us emceed for that, right? So only thing was, I will say I was lucky enough to be involved in that for almost 3 months. So I get up in the morning, get ready, do the session. Okay, this MC is missing now. Can you take over this session? Blah blah blah. It just went on, and thankfully, for 3 months, I didn't know where time flew. Of course, I was not getting paid. Just mention that. But having said that, it was after 3 months that I realized when everyone had finished watching their Netflix series and the chill is over, that oops, something has really hit. तब तक हमने वो थाली बजाना और सब कुछ शुरू कर दिया था. That is the time I saw everyone was making content, right? Everyone. And mostly I think the easiest content to make and get views was Bollywood, right? I think everyone will agree to it. And it was easier to get Bollywood people from Bollywood, be it music industry, be it actors. So somehow it was not clicking because I think by that time it was already done and dusted. Everyone had already done it. So as an MC, I was feeling the pressure. Okay, everyone is doing it. What should I do? And at that time, the sports idea struck with me because this is something I've been very passionate about. And I didn't know, there was no ideation, there was no preparation. It was just one person I had met, which is Adnan Adib, in one of our sessions, right? And I was like, let me speak to him. If he says yes, let's do the first session and see how it goes. It started with that. He agreed. My first session of Sanchali's a Misfit happened in a day's time of creation. And the only thing was, let's inspire people, let's get their stories. Sports is something, health is something people are looking at. And let's also get normal people, everyday people, to participate in challenges which are thrown by these athletes. If they participate, great. We will just acknowledge them through our next speaker or the next guest who's going to be on the show. After him, we had Mohammad Kaif, we got Vijender Singh, we got Mohit Sharma, we got the athletes from the Indian hockey team who are currently playing. And so on and so forth. People joined. Garima Avtar, who's not here, who was supposed to be on our session. That was the first time we met. So thankfully, that show took a hit, and that went on as a hit. I realized that I needed to get, I was feeling bad people are participating, and I need to just give something to them as an incentive. Like, if I want to participate, I want to get something. It's not just an acknowledgement. So I just floated out this idea. I'm looking for some sponsors. If anyone wants to come on board, I was not looking at money at all, because that was the last thing on my mind. I was just like, I want to do something for these people. Thankfully, I got a sponsor, and he sponsored all the gifts that came in post that. That also brought in something new for me. And just to mention, this is a great learning from you guys. I was only at 3,000 followers at that time. And still to get these kind of people on the show was such a big step and encouragement for me. And I realized the importance of social media and content creation at that time. I was like, abhi to aa gaye, next time nahi aayenge. Numbers dekh ke ki ye to kya numbers hai, and now it's just gonna be this. So then I started building it up, of course. And the biggest thing which I learned in this whole scenario is you get to connect with global audiences, which I couldn't do before. So 2 of my guests were from UK. They were happy to be on the show. So it's just that I think our market overall improved, our reach improved, especially for social media shy people, or who stayed away for it for whatever reason it was before. They found a market, and I think in any case that went further up. Now with my sponsors, one thing I'll just quickly add, I started something which I think hardly anyone knows. I started doing an export business. So it was these cork products that we made, which was yoga mats, yoga blocks, a lot of these yoga products. And I had no idea about exports. I've never done it before. Randomly got in touch with a person. All my paperwork was organized, and we exported quite a few times these was customized products to Australia and Canada. So that started for me. And after that, I think events happened, and Vinod was the first one, I think, right after, I don't know, was it our first, the very first event virtual? I think we kept it very hush-hush. Everyone wanted to be quiet about it. There were only few people who were watching it. It was for ICICI, and that I did with Vinod right after EMA. So after those EMA sessions, and everyone watches like, okay, this is doable. So then there's a whole, I will say, an arena opened up as far as virtual events is concerned, and we are so grateful for that. We all cribbed about the money. We all did, and thankfully, everything is back. So we all pivoted, and I'm glad whatever pivot happened, whichever way it happened, I think the biggest part is we all survived. Still, we are going through all of this, and I hope we keep surviving. That's more important, and coming out glorious.
So before I say over to you, Robin, before I say that, I think, Sanchali, we had those round of conversations during lockdown, and, you would get inspired with one another. She's so right with the global audiences, because even that's something I'm sure a lot of our co-MCs and the artists and the businessmen would have figured, is that, because you would do a show, let's say a US-based timing, right? You're doing it in the night, and then in early morning you're waking up for another country, which is physically not possible. So the kind of volume of work, the access, like personally I got was around 16 plus countries, and it was massive. And your name gets known, and which is where the global MC title came in, was because of the impact of hosting for so many kinds. So Sanchali, that's
agreed.
Brilliant point.
We got more clients, and I think even events as a whole for event planners. Earlier it was you organize an event for a certain group of people, even if it is 50,000 in terms of a concert. Right. How many of those people, you had those 50,000 watching, nobody would really watch it over a screen or get glued to a screen. Maybe it's a Tomorrowland, where people will go to a special screening or something, that's completely different. But otherwise now, a lot of government events which will happen, right? The bigger ones, because which was taking place in the pandemic. And we had a huge audience to it. Why? Because there was nothing else to do. So Ravin is like, we are done.
As incredible as that is, having global audiences for your virtual gigs and all, I realized that during this period, you could also curate your independent events. Like, let's say if you are master of a skill, or if you master it along the time of the pandemic, you could also host your independent master classes, super classes, whatever you may call it, rebrand it, repurpose it, and just put it out there. And you will have an audience. If you are building, like Siddharth said, the genuine fan following, or the genuine following, organic one, they will come out to you for these classes, and you could always host your independent events. And I'm so fortunate to be on this platform, because I hosted one of my master classes called Mindfulness Master Classes, Mindfulness Miracles. And I just posted 3 days before hosting this, because I was free for that weekend. And I said, listen, I'm going to do this. If 10 people say yes, I'm going to conduct it. It's a 2 days, 2 hour each day kind of a master class. And within 3 days, I got 180 registrations. It was insane. And I called Dr. Batra and said, Dr. Batra, this has happened. And it is unthinkable for me, and I want you to come on as a keynote speaker because it's become an event of its own, what started out as an intent to just do a simple class. So we also realized the power of the impact that we all could curate. So I think it was a great time.
So Vijay wants
Yeah.
to say something. Vinod first. Yeah. Two questions.
Right.
Can we get the mic or?
No, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Two
His
questions.
voice comes.
Always hear
Yeah,
you.
his voice is loud.
So the discount period is over, just a
Yeah.
disclaimer.
Yeah. Sorry, come again.
That's what I was trying. Anyway, both my questions are to the center of stage. This is for Siddharth Kannan. Question number one is, when are you retiring? Because we would like to give the Lifetime Achievement Award. That's the first question. Second question.
Anna, என்னடா பண்ற?
Second one is, what's your deal with, Benson Awards? Because, I know you must be having so many awards, you can set shop, or probably you must be having a franchise, something like that.
No, what I'm first of all doing is I'm getting a tattoo on my forehead of his face, Parag's face. It's going to be on my forehead, but like you suggested, you said shave off your chest and put it on your chest as well. So I'm going to have 2 tattoos with his name as well. Thank you so much. And Anna, after Botox, like you've done at the same place, I feel much younger, I feel so much younger, and especially the vitamin pills that you take every 10 minutes so that it allows you to walk as well. I'm going to try that right after this event, and I hope it'll allow me to go longer. All right? Okay, now coming back very honestly, okay, so I'm talking about everyone figuring out a different aspect of themselves. So during the pandemic, obviously when people saw me, they said energy, power, blah, 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 blah. And during the pandemic, when I used to sit and, I started discovering, hopefully, a soulful side to me. All right?
I was about to come to that part of the conversation,
Hopefully,
by the way,
why,
but yeah,
Siddharth?
please.
Yeah. No. Okay?
Completely disagree.
I think we'll not take a poll on that from the audience.
My elder brothers are going to rag me right now. So what happened was, I suddenly got a guest on my show, and that guest had gone through a divorce and all that stuff, and I wanted to talk to that guest about that because it was breaking news all across, but she hadn't spoken about it anywhere else. And I wanted to probe into that. And that lady, this happened 12 days before, and she was continuously first 8 minutes cracking jokes with me. And I was like, damn, I have to maneuver her to get to this point when she talks about that big divorce. And I kept 18 minutes cracking jokes left, right, and center. And the 19th minute, she opened up. And by the 25th minute, not that I didn't want her to do that, but she broke down. And that's when I realized that, wow, don't keep that side suppressed. Take it out. And that only happened because of the pandemic, because we got time with ourselves, right? We got time with ourselves. And we all knew a formula, right? When Devraj comes on Independence Rock and he performs like Brahma, he'll come like this with his chest out and he'll pump it up and it's going to work. So we were all playing to the galleries as to what worked for us. And I said, damn, the gallery playing. And I said, I'm going to start putting up videos which have people showing their soulful side. Initially, those videos were not taking off, and I was worried. I said, should I get back to only doing crazy stuff? But I persisted, and I got both these sides out. So the pandemic allowed us, forget others, to evaluate our own selves.
So
Yes.
basically, sit ke got in touch with Bhavna, Bhavnao ko samjho. Oh my
No.
God, nobody done.
So,
No, Bhavna.
Slow clap, come on, yeah. I was just like, slow clap, please.
so actually, Sid, what you're saying, I remember, Sid, I had a conversation with Roshan once because I was struggling with his numbers and this creation thing. And he said, because he's literally floating out content every day. He's like, don't worry about the numbers. It can get really disappointing. Sometimes you don't get views. You just have to sometimes keep it at bay. I'm saying this for new creators, somebody who's just getting into the whole thing. Yeah. So it gets difficult. I think we all have learned that consistency is the key and good content is the key. So sometimes you have to put the
No, I'm
hee-ha,
gonna-
hoo-ha at bay, sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm going to come to a point which is very, very important. And Frisch, please do add because I love your content also, Frishia. Okay, now I'm going to give you a theory which works. A lot of people, whether it's on stage, so say, see a Badsha rapping. So there's a whole brigade which will try and get copying Badsha. They'll see an MC with a lot of energy, there'll be a whole brigade which will try and do that. but the original will be the original. The original will charge the premium, rest all will be the discounted versions. Because they see energy with this MC works. Badsha's attitude works. The idea is to sit in one corner and figure out your own dynamics. When I started jumping on chairs, there was a whole brigade which started doing that, which is great. But by the time they started doing what I was doing, I developed another side. I kept evolving. So the idea is to be comfortable with your own self and creating what works, which you can sustain. You cannot end up imitating someone for a long time. And that's what digital teaches you. Ki dhongi mat bano. Jaise ho, vaise ho. Like Vinod Janardhan is 72 years old, but he pretends to be 16, and I love that about him.
He's an original
Anna.
masterpiece, huh?
But, you know, I just want to quickly say this because I can also see this timer. Now,
Oh.
we're all talking about...
There we go.
We're all talking numbers and we're all saying we pivoted and we've all done all of this and we've reached these heights and all of that. But let's also understand that once you do that, what is the value addition that you are constantly giving your audience? How are you constantly evolving? Because now we've done this 2 years back. The pandemic happened in 2020. It's now been 2 years. Everything that you have been doing, now it needs to change. It needs to keep evolving. And you as an artist also, again, be true to yourself, but you also have to evolve within what that niche is. And I want to quickly also say something to my fellow people that have millions of followers and views that are collective on this entire panel. I also think that it's time for us to give back. Yeah? The time has also come for us to give back, no matter what it is. And during the pandemic, what I realized, because you were saying something about the impact of creating impact, and suddenly we started observing things around us that we never saw. And I started my own beach cleanup movement last year. I'm now 1.5 years into that.
Come on,
Every
come on, that deserves a round of
Saturday,
applause. Yes.
I have teams, I have corporates. I had the Indian Army, actually, I'm very proud of that. I had the Indian Army come, 1,000 people came and cleaned that beach in Bandra that Saturday. So let's also use this to impact others and to also add some value addition other than also the money that we're, that we're trying to make all the time.
Just one last bit I would like to add for the numbers that we are talking and numbers and the money. Now see, there is some kind of content, certain pieces of content that would get the eyeballs easily, that all of us agree. But you have to also find your value system where you fit in and where you bring in a content that relates and resonates with you, because only that content you can do for a long time, right? You can copy enough and whatever, but that you will exhaust yourself and you'll also sort of, harm your image that you have created with whatever genuine attempts you want to do. So as much as enticing it is to do a content that gets more eyeball, it is very important, I think, to stick to your own niche and something that you truly believe in, and just keep scaling that up bit by bit. I know it takes a long time. I am on the painful end of it, and you have to take out, like you said, you could afford 3 people living in your house, a step which I have now come to. But it's difficult, I understand. When the numbers don't match, it's difficult, but it's very important to stay, because then you get spotted by the right people. There could be just 1 or 2 of those people, but that is where your monetization or your next business piece will come in from. So,
Okay,
And-
just
and
3 words.
always-
Just 3 words. Just 3 words. Learn, adapt, and evolve. I think that's what we've
Yeah.
all been talking about. And, it just makes a lot of sense from what everyone's been speaking about. So, Sanchali, I mean, just 3 words I wanted to say.
No, I'm
Over
just
to you.
saying the biggest learning from this session is never keep so many MCs on one session. It's never going to end.
And also, ladies and gentlemen, big announcement. If you want to check out a new profile on tinder.com, Vinod has uploaded his profile.
And guess who swiped right? All right, over to you, Ravan, for the last time.
Finally, are you sure? Okay, great. I was waiting for the last 20 minutes, holding my breath in कि ये timer कोई देख रहा है, नहीं देख रहा है, क्या चल रहा है, but that's how it is, right? Okay, so to summarize this session, essentially the resurgence story from every single person's perspective that you saw on the stage, most of them are artists, so you can understand the time that they spent with themselves, transition into different creative outlets. Be it digital, be it storytelling, be it content creation, be it singing, writing, however you create yourself, express yourself creatively. So that happened on this side. On the other side, these two gentlemen that you see here, they were pivoting with their businesses. And especially what happened in the pandemic era, virtuals just boomed like crazy. And I have a friend over here, Chirag from WeConnect. Chirag, if you can, he's done, I don't know how many virtual events throughout in this pandemic. But if you can give me 30 seconds of your input in the resurgence, Chirag, that'll be amazing. The transition in the last 1.5 years to the point that we are here. So can somebody help out?
While
this
Chirag is coming, I want to know, Rohil, where did you get that silky hanky of yours? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Chirag. I'm MD of WeConnect Services. I worked with Taj Hotels for almost 12 years before opening this company in 2013. And at that time also, apart from physical events, our 20% of revenues used to come from live streaming and video conferencing. So at that time, 2013-14, if I talk about live streaming and video conferencing or virtual platforms, we literally used to go to clients and every corporate house that we'll do free for you. First event free and later on we'll charge. Little we knew that pandemic will struck, and just after 10 days, when lockdown started, 20% of that revenue that we used to get from live streaming became 200%. From left, right and center, from B2B to B2C, we started getting calls to create virtual platforms, do these Zoom calls and all. Now, today, again it's on balance side, 40-60, 50-50, because people have started knowing how to use Zoom or something like that. In 2020, Google approached us to do their town halls virtually. So if a company like Google calls you up, that's something that we are doing something with. And the credit goes to our Director of Sales, Vandana Sardana. She's into sales business for the last 17 years. And she's been with us throughout the journey. And that was her idea in 2015 that we should start virtual event live streaming along with the physical events as well. So entire team of us is moving to Bhopal tomorrow. I'm sorry, I'm slightly breathless. Bhopal tomorrow will be doing a Prime Minister's event. So, thank you, thank you. And Ravin has been part, journey's part throughout the lockdown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ये अब हम सब ने अपनी PR करवा ली है, as you clearly saw. But coming back to it, so essentially idea was, in our busy real lives, none of us got a week's off, if I'm saying that with 100% accuracy, and probably on the other side too. एक हफ्ता खाली नहीं बैठे हो गया pandemic के अलावा. But the moment you had to spend so much time with yourself, solitary, isolated, with your thoughts, everything baggage that you suppressed down deep there somewhere, that's where all the soul and spiritual things popped up, because there comes a point when the light gets too dark and there has to be a way for a new perspective to walk in. So all these guys did that. I'm very happy that you all did that. The flip side to it is simple. If you were spending time with yourself, you might have come out with bit more money and bit more numbers. If you are spending a lot of time with your wife, either you congratulate her and get the brownie points, or the divorce rate jumped to 70% for a specific reason because you are spending a lot of time with each other. That's the monologue that I had for it, right? That's about it. Thank you so much for bearing us for so long. I'll request all of you to kindly join us in the center, get a group photograph. And all of you, can I request you to do this, raise your left hand for me, please? If you can all raise your left hand like that, palm up like that, please. All of you, thank you, thank you. With the other hand, put one finger in the palm, center, one finger, two finger, three finger, four fingers, palm to palm. ये proper ताली बजा दो सबके लिए if you enjoyed that session. Nice, thank you.